Lama karma pa, kingro kungi chungne, sisi pargan yidam nanjurma, chende kungi chebu, ongyu chebu, begun kandrela. Najur tiji gube juda drame, tuji kyunhara. Cho chuna shube sangye dan chanchu semba tam che dan lama yang dawa yungi gewe shinye chimbo dala gongso se. Dala jingi labdu se, dala chinji mal. Chinji lobe toba tamche, nyudu shio jingi labdu se. Chinji ma lobe toba tamche. Tela do gyora jingi labdu se, da tewa chimbi chudu bala. Parche tamche nyora shiora jingi labdu se. Lasta magyu namgi thana nyambe simjin tamche krowa dungalgi kyaso le talte. Sungjuk dorji changi gobang la gwebar cha deyi chidu tambe chela tue sam gom sumgi kone chukbar gyu nyambe kunglong chanchi chodo tukeba sal tab ne kunje number taba dang sung to tell te tambishu simple show.
Please listen to the teachings of the genuine Dharma with the unity of perfectly pure conduct and the vivid experience of the pure motivation of bodhicitta that resolves in order to free all beings, my mothers, infinite in number, from this ocean of suffering that is samsara, and establish them in the state of unity of Vajradhara. I shall engage in listening, contemplating, and meditating on the genuine Dharma.
Dela gang sembrjewe chigirimba. Ani jamgun Lodro Thai sung Lama kyangbe ki soldep mugu ningi sadep shibadare.
Of all the possible topics of the Dharma, our topic is the text by Jamgon Kundra Lodro Thai, known as Devotion That Pierces the Heart, a supplication for calling the Guru from afar.
Ani sondep dela kasang shibananshi teni rimba sum yore. Ta rimba sum di rimba dangbu nidi teni kunzub ki wangzu chebe sondep re. Rimba thama di dendambe wangzu chebe sondep re. Ani di nane dandada dangbu nidi kunzub ki wangzu chebe sondep nidi gare lamna o trebu debut 고방 토비 치도 소와답에 선대지당 애니 규 람기 짐바 귤라게기 깨발라 징기라베 선대니레 딘낭네드니 가서 당보 오 데뷔 고방 귤라게발라 Jingila Bursawadabe Sundev the Yeshe Kaps Babare. Kafanga of this Shetara.
Lade. As I explained yesterday, this text has three parts to it. The first two are a supplication from the perspective of apparent reality, the conventional level of things. And the third relates to a supplication from the perspective of the genuine. Of these, what do we mean by saying that the first two parts are a supplication from the perspective of apparent reality? This is referring to the fact that there are two modes of supplication in these first two parts. First, there's a supplication with respect to the fruition or result. In order to attain the level of fruition, we make a supplication. Second, there is a supplication with respect to the cause. In order to give rise to the path in our mind stream, we make supplication. Of these two parts, yesterday I explained a bit of the first, and that's the context we have arrived at now.
Dirvedini Kunzubgi Wangjebe Soldev Rimbanidi Nazo Nyamlendang Nyamlingi Rimbadang Delni Songare. Nyamlin Jeju Gasu Nazo Chitang Nyamlin Jegi Guto de Garatan Tundira Indian Mali Tundi Indian Tamja Tundi Gizore Sonamare. Any Tundi the condition Gorilla, Tundi Sawa de Gare, Dumba, Dunir Dira. Dumba than Dunir de la Tundi Yungre. Any Dumba Ketan the young Korim Kandere, Tango, Tebula Tumbake, Nirki. Any Tebula Dunirki, just Tebu the Gula Rale by Bashini, any Gula Dunirki. The Naming Gorim. Pena Sangi, the Bashi Sundu Young. Tambu Dungal Shebra Jasun, Dini Kunjum Power Kobangun the Jas, said the Gasu, Koba Dunir Kegora Tango. Nyangdi Dunir Kegora. The Tebu Dunir Tambu Kegidwa. This just lump them Jasunra. 어디 고고 던질게 선에 고고디 가리스 토그레라는 람 곰발테네 토그레 세데드니 데부디 큐 람 곰발라 라레바 임베 제와디세나 드니 람라 던질게 기라 드니 람라 던질게네 던지 용으로 던지지나 람 길게 기라 람 길게네 데부 토그라 디 냠는 구림레 디 인자드니 정글로 타야기 라마 경비기 선접디양 구림 디랑 tum바송 요래 당보 데부 길게 선접 되니 귤람 길게 선접디 냠는 기 구림당 tum바송 요래 내가 첨부 요래
When we look at these two parts of supplication with respect to the conventional level of things, the apparent reality, these align with the stages of our practice, how our practice develops sequentially. Generally speaking, what is the main cause for our practice? And that main cause is diligence. Diligence is the root source of all excellent qualities. But then what is the source of diligence? Diligence arises out of urgency, longing, an urgent seeking for a particular thing. So what is the sequence for giving rise to that longing, that urgency? This is a very important point. First, we develop longing for the result. In practice, what happens first is to long for the result. And when we have this urgency to obtain the result and understand that it is independent on its causes that we're able to do so, then the second level of longing and urgency arises, longing and urgency directed at its cause. We see the same exact sequence in the Buddha's first public discourse, the Four Truths of Realization, where the Buddha teaches recognize suffering, abandon its origin, actualize the cessation of suffering by relying on the path. First, the Buddha is presenting the purposes for having an urgent seeking, longing for nirvana, the cessation of suffering. Then, once we have that longing, we recognize that it is in dependence on relying on the true path that it is possible to attain it. So we have that sequence again. Longing for the result leads us to understand that it is based on the cause, the true path, that we're able to do that. And that in turn gives rise to longing or urgency with respect to that true path. Once we recognize that, we know that it is by activating the true path in our mind stream that we're able to attain the fruition. And this is a sequence that we encounter in our practice. First, we give rise to longing to develop the fruition in our mind stream. Then, understanding that that depends on its causes, we have longing to give rise to the cause in our mind stream. This is the organic development of our practice, and it is also an extremely crucial point to understand.
Tanda ngarang su sundib di dini chamgul lodi thaya ki sung inzang chamgul lodi thaya di dini baya ki dubji shingda chambu gaya ki dini gyuba chasang singking ki lama chire dini chiryu rime ki lama chire dini yenzi kaso dini kong dubji shingda gaya ki gyuba tangwa ki gyuba chasang singking ki lama inzang kong la dubji shingda chambu gaya ki gyuba chasang yore di inzang dini gang la Sunday Mambodi, Dugi Singh Chambu Gegi, Lama Chasang, La Soa de Sunday. O the Indicazini, Dugi Singh Chambu Gegi, any Lam Nyamsul Lensul Test Mara Mara Yore, Dinzang, Any debu gopang yang ngo chibaredi hine number tade number ngui zinsulla tade yore ngo la tade yomare hine yang nyamlingi rimba da tumba debu tupsulla yang number chane tade shaya yore o dine edukazu ni o shingde gegi lama re shingi any gopang tobe yenden jene any 콩 넘버스 능신기 고방디 아니 나랑라양 톱에 선접제베 선접레 토발을 징길라 봐라 소와데베 선접레 이나 디 망보 여자들이 가서 단다 디스메디 되네 가장 강마도 요샤 되네 정글로드 타야기 선접자라 선접내마 고소거래
In making the supplication to give rise to this longing for attaining the level of the fruition, Jangam Khenpo Lodro Tai uses all of the lamas of the 8 chariots, 8 lineages of the teachings in Tibet to give rise to that urgent seeking for the fruition. In the first part of the text, the supplication is directed one by one to each of the various lamas of the lineages of the 8 chariots, the 8 vehicles of the teachings in Tibet. And the reason that is done is that by supplicating all of the lamas, we are actually engaging in a practice that accords with the organic development, the process of our own practice developing. When we look at all of the lamas in general, in essence, they are exactly the same. It is only in their form that they differ. Even though the various lamas differ in the form they present to us, the form in which we engage them, in essence, they are the same. Nevertheless, because it accords with the organic process of our practice to engage with them in the forms they present, the supplication is made to each one of them individually in order to give rise to this longing, this urgency for developing the fruition in our own path. In this way, the supplication is directed at each of the particular levels of fruition attributed to each of the lamas of the 8 chariot lineages of Tibet. And in this way, we're able to develop urgency for that fruition ourselves. There are very many verses for each of these, and there isn't time to go through them. But as we saw yesterday, we can get an exemplar of how those operate by means of the verse that is directed at Jangam Khenpo Lodro Tai. So that's where we're going to focus.
Number share, Karajini Lamni, Jangulu Taylor, 10 Madawa Shire. And it's same Madawa Shiri, Chikars and Sotragitomba. Tobia Kapsu, Sotragumba, Sotragitomba, Sambi Kapsu Dini, Kongi Lama, Sidupema Ninjigi, and in Nangshawe, sending no Yundingas, Kasan Shedra. Then these years, the Kong Chanjus and Betumba. Shibara.
Lasso.
Chanjus and Betumba Shibi goes to Kongi Sandy, Lodro, Gase, Lodro Tai said, Chanjus and Betumba Shibi Sende, Kong Chanjus and Besende. Or the Niba did the Tigone Swadaba. Cigarette. Or the Dambo Sigil Lona, Gase Lodro Tai Keno, Jam the Ningjing on the 6. Dogun Dinjin Pamar Shene, Champagne Ning to Miss Vijay, said Sunday.
When we look at the supplications to Jangam Khenpo Lodro Tai, there are actually 4 different kinds of supplication, depending on the 4 different names that are used to identify Jangam Khenpo Lodro Tai. Yesterday, we saw that the first verse was directed to Jamgon Rinpoche in the name of Namwan Yunten Gyatso, which is the name given to him by his root guru, Situ Pema Ninje, upon taking the individual liberation vows. Then the next verse is directed to Bodhisattva Lodro, which is the name given to Jamgon Rinpoche at the time of taking the Bodhisattva vow. This was Lodro's Bodhisattva name. So the second form of supplication to Lodro is using that name, and I will put it into the chat in English. If the other translators have access, it would be great to have those in the chat as well. The verse says, Bodhisattva Lodro no. Okay. Gan, I think you're broadcasting to the main channel. So anyway, I will read the verse. Bodhisattva Lodro know me, behold us from the state of love and compassion. Grant that, having recognized all beings as our kind parents, we are able to sincerely benefit them.
Hola. Tadi any Sundip Dilla Chidang the name of the Sundip said the Sundip Gyu. Sundip Gyu did the Penna to Sundip said the condition younger Lamnadini Gulatini Chungura. The Gyu Garre Lamnadini to Penangaran so Tambuda Dembashila Chashana Dembashi di Dambu Sangi Dungal Shiverja Kunjung Panaja Gobongonja Sungra Ta Goba Debu Dunir di Tambo any Dungal Machine Debu Dunir Kia Yamara the Debu Dunir Kia Dungal Dishegora Ko Dungal Imbashena then Tarba Dunir Kira the Ko Dungal Imbashena Tarba Dunir Kia Yamara Tarba Dunir Magina Talam Dunir Kia Yamara the Gurimishin the Dogora. O Pet in the Chigore, in the Naran any guess a Lodro Keno Tanga to Sundilla Cheshi Chin, some of the go to Chagre. Guess a Lodro Chanjus and Lodro Candidate Lana, Jamdan, Ningji Tangi. Not Tiki, Tupchana.
Nade.
Go to Chagre. Guess a Lodro Tayla, Indian Gare, Jamdan Ningji Tangi. Chamba the Ningji Tangiam, Chamba the Ningji or Yenden Tarsimbadra. The Chamba the Ningji Tangiam, Chamba the Ningji Mada Kese Lodro Tai. The Kese Lodro Tai, Chamba the Ningji Nadare, Nansu Gare. Nansu any Chamba Gito Shedangra. Ningji Dosho number Sevara number Seva Simjela Seva Jeg Samlo. O didn't Nansu Shedang number Seva Gitangira. O didn't go to the Naranso Shedang number Seva Tangi, but the Kungi number the Shene, any Kun didn't tell away, Kun didn't tell you somebody. Any Kun didn't tell you Chamba the Ningji Nada Chayagi, Tunir Kira. Then Naransu Kun la Kun the Matong Taldu Makivala, any Castle Lodro Tayagi, Tugi, and then Chamba the Ningji and Dindi, Tom the Kigmara. Any Castle Lodro Tayagi, and then Chamba the Ningji di, Naransu Tober Devala, then Naransu Gila Yebe, Shedang number 7. Samba, Nyumbayara. Digi Kyun Matongna, Dedan Dalwe Goni, Jamba the Ningji Indi, Tumja Langamara, Tobal, the Niki Mara. Being that Gase Lori Taigi, Tugila Indian Jamba the Ningji di. Then Tobala Dun Nirwala, Rangi Gyun, Shedangdang, number 2. Dile Kyun the Tony, Dile Dantik Sambagora. These Sambani di Karidu Lamnadini, until Lama than until Gantarimbo in Bay, throw at the Kido. Or these throw at the Kidigo, didn't Nantukin, the Kyun Tong, Dele Dantik Sambadang, any Lame Indian the Tong, De Tumdaki Samba, the Nirkido. These Sunday Gura. The Guniba de Garela Nadini Narangi, Dundi Nirway, any Debu Chamba the Ninji, Kopang de Tobiadang, any Narang Levi, the Kalgin to give a Kyun, Shedang number 3, Sambadang Taliadi, any Kugin Mambo Gogure, Dinani Kugin Chip Garela, Lami Chilabre, or the Lami Chilabin Balai Lami Chilabla Rale by Mexico. Or the needed any Sunday Gigura.
Nasa. What are the causes for this supplication? What actually activates the mindset of supplicating in our own practice? How does it come about? Again, let's turn to the sequence that the Buddha sets forth in the 4 truths of realized beings. First, recognize suffering. Second, eliminate the origin of suffering. Third, actualize the cessation of suffering. These first 3 lay out the explanation that gives us an understanding of what is necessary to attain the fruition. It both gives us an urgency to seek out the fruition, and it explains by the mere sequence that unless we recognize suffering, the first step, we're not going to have the urgent seeking, the longing for the fruition. In other words, if we don't recognize samsara as suffering, then there isn't any longing to attain freedom from samsara in the fruition itself. There isn't the longing for liberation from samsara if we don't recognize samsara's deficiencies, its suffering character. This is the stages of our practice. When we look at this verse, and it says, Bodhisattva Lojutaye know us, it is probably easier to go through this bit by bit so that we can understand what is happening in this verse. When the verse says Bodhisattva Lojutaye know me or know us, it is directing the attention to the Bodhisattva Lojutaye. Then it says, behold us from the state of love and compassion. This is indicating that Jungin Kundra Loditaye is characterized by this loving kindness and compassion. These are the excellent qualities of the ultimate fruition. And this line indicates that the Bodhisattva Loditaye is the master of loving kindness and compassion. What relevance does this have to us in our practice? Well, we can see from these 2 qualities, loving kindness and compassion, what the opposites are. The opposite of loving kindness is aggression, hatred, or aversion. The opposite of compassion is malice, the wish to harm. When we look at this verse, we are reminded that we are characterized more by aggression and ill will or malice than we are by the loving kindness and compassion characterizing the Bodhisattva Lodro. It is by seeing the faults of having this aggression and ill will in our own mind that we develop the urgency, the longing to be free of it, to be a master of loving kindness and compassion like Bodhisattva Lodro, without first giving rise to understanding that these are failings and that they are present in our mind stream. There won't be any wish to overcome them, to attain instead their opposite state, the loving kindness and compassion, which is the characteristic of the Bodhisattva Lodro. So this verse is giving us by a contrasting example of the excellent qualities of loving kindness and compassion that the Bodhisattva Lodro has in their experience, a ability to see the failings in our own mind stream, the presence of aggression and ill will in our mind stream. Unless we see these failings, we won't actually strive to attain their opposites, loving kindness and compassion, such as the Bodhisattva Lodro has. When we see these two mindsets of aggression and ill will as present in our mind stream and as a contrast to the loving kindness and compassion of Bodhisattva Lodro, we have a felt sense, a strong feeling of the distance between us, how far we are from the Guru from the perspective of these qualities. Seeing the qualities of the Guru of loving kindness and compassion, we are able to see how our failings of aggression and ill will keep us at a very far distance from their state. This is one cause for supplication, seeing the great divide between our state and the state of Bodhisattva Lodro. In addition to that, a second cause is that by having this urgency to develop the loving kindness and compassion ourselves in our mind stream, wishing to be free of the failings of aggression and ill will, we recognize that there are many causes and conditions that will be required for that to happen. But among those causes and conditions, a principal one is attaining the blessing of the Guru, having confidence that this urgent wish we have to be free of aggression and ill will depends on the blessing of the Guru is the second cause for the supplication.
Teni lame yintendi chamba na nyingji ngada. Teni ngada tsikje sodi kasu di yungumara, ngada goa lendi kasu tsikdi kaka chena teni godewa chagire. Kiasi Lodro thai chamba na nyingji tangi. Chamba na nyingji di kongi gopang rawa di kasu.
Nare.
Di yindi teni chamba na nyingji ngangne Yeshe ki ken tewe sik sik di khadeshana
Nare.
chamba da nyingji di khurang gopang rawa di kaso
Nare.
teni gyase Lodro thaye chamba da nyingji ngangne Yeshe ki ken tewe sik nubes jingi labro nangs sanjib di kare khenpa da tewa nuba kulwa rawa di khenpe sik 말에 예시기 켄 세베식 성로 이 그래서 그래 난지 견제를 쓰거라 난솔을 쓰거라 난솔을 그래서 그래 견제 쓰거라다 어디인데 난소 근데 열을라는데 시당당 넘버 세워기 교인기 왕도도 그냥 랑양 동알서 셴라양 동알서 이 견나라 데데르디 딜 시그로 나스라다 만지 내당디 케기 예시기 켄 세와기 식 되니 거리죠 그래 니바기 진람 나로나스 Sandip Dira.
The supplication in this verse does not expressly state what our failings of mindset are. It doesn't expressly say that we have these failings of aggression and ill will. It is implicit in referring to the Lodro Tai qualities of loving kindness and compassion. By referring to Lodro Tai as possessing these excellent qualities, implicitly it is shining a light on the failings of our own mind stream in lacking those qualities, in having aggression and ill will instead. So when we look at this verse, it says, behold us from the state of loving compassion or loving kindness and compassion. Here, this term state is referring to the level of realization, the characterization of that level of realization being loving kindness and compassion. And when it says, behold us, what this verse is referring to is it's invoking the knowledge of non-dual wisdom that Lodro Tai possesses, as well as the affectionate love Lodro Tai possesses, and saying, behold us with the knowledge of non-dual wisdom and with affectionate love. What is it that we want Lodro Tai to behold in us? To behold the failings of our mind, to behold the difference in our mindset that is characterized by aggression and ill will, and overcome, carried away by that aggression and ill will. Our situation is one where we bring suffering upon ourselves and suffering upon others. The supplication is, behold this sad state. Behold us in the failings, in the grip of the failings of aggression and ill will.
Allah. Dini da nibi jingi laveri, kari jingi lavgore eslan da minga do. Jamgun Lodro Tai, Yeshe Lodro Tai, Kong Nang Singi, Jamba da Ningji Gopang di, Tuvega, Jinlab Naro Na Slara. Dini da Nansi Gyun, Shedang Dang, Number Tsewe, Samba Nyomongba Didang Dalne, Dini, Yeshe Lodro Tai, Kirandabo, Any Doa Tamje, Dinjem Pama Yimba Shene, Jamba Dang, Ningji, Dangni the Gyur. Any did a number going to Semjingi, Pemba Bashik Ning Tawane, Lenla Rewa Meba, Namila Rewa Meba. Unconditional love, pure love. Dido, Kene, any Shingi, Pemba Bashik, did a number Kundu, Tubtubala, Chilam Naronang. Nibagi Chilam Naronang Sotagore. Sunday Dira.
The verse is asking for the blessing of Janggan Lodro Tai. And what is the blessing it is asking us for? This relates to the next lines, enable us, recognizing all beings as our kind parents, grant the blessing that we are able to sincerely benefit them. So what is this referring to? This is saying, please grant the blessing that we may be able to attain the level of loving kindness and compassion possessed by the Bodhisattva Lodro Tai, that he mastered. It is saying, behold this mindset riddled with kleshas, such as aggression and ill will. Behold our wish to be free of it. and instead to have the loving kindness and compassion and full mastery that you have, Bodhisattva Lodro, so that we may be like you, lovingly kind and compassionate toward all beings, wishing to work only the benefit of beings, to do so from the very depths of our heart with unconditional love, with pure love, and be able to benefit our beings as our own kind parents at all times in every possible way. Please grant me this blessing. That is the supplication we make.
Oh, Lama. Then it door this or Chambadang Ningji Dangni Gase Lodro Shedang number 7 Nyumong Be Sambe Wang the Gurbe Narang Sola Yeshe Nanzi Nedang di Yeshe Khenpo Zero Nang Zewe Nanzi Nedang Dubodela Sigro Nang any Nibe Goni Kerang Dan Dave Nanzi Kyun Dedan Dalne Shedang number 7 Kyun Dan Dalne Kerang Dan Dave Chamba the Ningji Kopang Tabala Chilam Narunans Kodivashana Dira.
If we summarize this verse in brief, what it is saying is, please turn your wisdom and know us. Please look upon us with your affectionate love. This situation where, unlike you, characterized by loving kindness and compassion, we are dominated by aggression and ill will, carried away by aggression and ill will in all of our actions. Please know us in this state with your non-dual wisdom. Please see us with your affectionate love in this situation. Please grant us the blessing that we be free of this aggression and ill will, and like you, attain loving kindness and compassion and full mastery.
Oh, Lama. Oh, Dido, Juni Latine, any Sundip di Juna, then Sundip di Nibachabo, any Chilab Gilam Chagreda. Penangaran so Pugu La Peshana, then Pugu Chunjun di Korang la Kangal la Dungal Yondu Pena Dohoto Balasoba, Dohoto Srajuna, then Lamsang Murang Kurangi Ama the Trilamena, then Kechimbo Gam Mugura. Amala Soata Vidoa. Sundip di Kurang la Garijini Yungorelanga, Dilla Juyara. Persona Chip Kurang Dohoto be Dungal di Surguare. The Dungal Dele Dolce Sambayore. Chip Garisana Kurang Rando Doltugo Mare, Dile Doltu Dile Kyopingi Dini, Kamnedi, Mara Amachigure, some Bishire. Me Amaki Kapure, some Bishire. The Dungal Dondu Sambadang. Dungal Dele Kyopin Ngara Ama Yimbi, she ni Latine, Tinico Ama Muni Muki Gani Amalatini, Sunday Jigdo. Didn't Chibara on it at the Sunday Dian. Didn't Lami Indian tongue. Didn't Rangla Indian di Neva, di Doctor Kyun Yavashe, didn't Narang Kyun Dele Dalni, Indian di Tumjagi Sambake. The indicator della any Kyun Dele Dalni, Indian di Tobiagi, any Niba di Lama Konaleva Yeshe. Tuji the Niba di Lama Konaleva Yeshe, needy, Sosona. Della Dene didn't send the younger Mare. Chilabi Lam Chagre.
It is these two causes of supplication that infuse our supplication with great power. It is what actually turns the supplication into the path of accessing blessings. And we can see how that works in ordinary life as well through the example of a young child. If a young child is experiencing any kind of discomfort or difficulty, for example, they're hungry, their stomach is empty, it is out of that they cry out loudly to their mother. This is a kind of supplication. And there are two causes involved. First, the child feels the discomfort of hunger, feels the suffering of hunger. Together with that, the child has this wish to be free of hunger, to relieve that hunger. Together with that, there is the confidence that the child's mother is the being who can free them, relieve that hunger. So having both the experience of the hunger on one end, and then on the other, the confidence in the wish to be free of it, and the mother as the being who can relieve the hunger, the child cries out, as we are meant to supplicate with devotion. So this is a very good example. In our case, when we are supplicating the Guru, we see the excellent qualities of the Guru. We see as well that we lack those qualities, and in fact are full of the opposite of those qualities. When we see that, when we really have a strong feeling of that, that naturally leads to the mindset that wishes to be free of this situation. And together with that, we recognize that only the Guru has the qualities of allowing us the access to the blessings that will free us. That is what causes the supplication. That is what activates the supplication so that it becomes a path for engaging the blessing.
Allah. That sendip di jema ki sendip di yang jungle de thaila sendip de. Tangbo sendip di lona pema gargi onju keno 대신 어설 ingni sikshi dunga Yeshe ngaru dolne pangto nidin shibur seji sedre.
The next verse is also a supplication to Jangan Kondro Lodro Tai. I'm going to put it in the chat in English. Oops, I didn't put it to everyone. Okay. And it reads, Pema Gargi Wanchuk Nomi, behold us from the sphere of the clear light of great bliss. Grant that, having liberated the 5 poisons into the 5 wisdoms, we eradicate the dualism of relinquishment and attainment.
Hola. Tadi pema gargi wangchu sedi yang jamgulu thai gi sede.
Nade.
Kare landa dini jamgulu thai ngagi tomba. She ini dikapsu dini ngagi tomba shibe sendila dini pema gargi wangchu sene. Nade. Dini za dini tela jamgulu thai gi sede. Da dile chibara ngado. Pema gargi wangchu di dikapsu kopang garre lana deshin hosal gi ingsu negora. Odi deshin hosal gi ingsu nebadi den pema gargi wangchu gi kopang ra. Ta deshin hosal I ingse di garre nga gi tokba ra de. Sanga gi dini tokba. Gyula ke odi deshin hosal gi ingsu nebare sidi sanga gi tokba tharchin ra khong. Odi dini deshin hosal gi ingla nebe dini pema gargi wangchu separe. Dini deshin hosal gi ingse di kapdila da pema gargi wangchu gi kopang ra. Dini dini nazo pema gargi wangchu deshin hosal ingsu shubadi kopang tela shubadi Any della any ye down with deba. Kevating of the Meba, Mugui Nigin and Meba de Ra. All us. Nanzo Kofang Garilla Yore Dungal Chimbo Marigbe Mumbanala Dungal Chimbe Nardera. Kong Devachimbe Wasalgi in Sugar and Ganso. Any Marigbe Mimbenala Dungalgi Gatonala Nardere. The Taramboredo, Angazo, the Lama Nibertala. Can Taramboredo. Or the Nedang de Tong Nedin Karchaganzo, young Marigbe member de Dol Dungalgi Gasole Tar. Any Pema Gargi Wanchu, Lama Pema Gargi Wanchu Nazi, any Devachimbe, Devach Desin Wasalgi in Desin Wasalgi, any Kobandi. Togudu Sambedini. Tepe deba kigira, Tami deba delatene. Di Topadi Sulara Legre Slanadini, Pema Gargi Wanchugi, Jilabla Legro, Jilabla Rale by Isiki, Tikasu Garichugre, Pema Gargi Wanchugi, Kadin Dengiro, Kadin Sangil, Hava de Dengiro, Tikubara, Tin Mugi Kigido, Telatene Sunday Yangurada. The Mugi Sundebi Taware, then Chilabgi Tawa Mugi race at Dira. The Mugi Dilatin Sunday Yonson, Sunday Digi, Lamagi took you Kulgira. Took you Karikulgire, Kemba, Stewa, Nivasum de Kulgira. Or the Indradine, Telakarishigidu, Pema Gargi Wangchu, Tessin Hoselgi Insun Nedera, Di Nangne, Yeshe Mansugi Dini Nedang Marik Mimbe Nala Tungalgi Gasol Hong Devadi Kenro Nang any Tawagi Sigro Nang or Signe Tini Nibe Goni Jingi Labro Nang Sanjadira.
Pema Gargi Wanchuk is also a name of Jangan Kondrolodi Thai. It is the name he was given when taking the vows of secret mantra. And then in the next line where it refers to the sphere of clear light of great bliss, this is referring to the ultimate realization of secret mantra, which Jangan Kunchu Lodutai brought to its consummate perfection. So it is referring to Jangan Kunchu Lodutai by his secret mantra name, Pema Gargi Wanchuk, and referring to him as abiding in the realization of secret mantra in its complete perfection, the sphere of clear light of great bliss. Then this is the supplication, this is to whom we're supplicating, and it's referring to the particular level related to secret mantra that Jangan Controller Dutai has attained. And by directing our mind to this state of fruition attained by Pema Gargi Wanchuk, the clear light of great bliss, our mind is infused, is suffused with vivid faith. This is reverence, the first of the two parts of the Tibetan for devotion, reverent gratitude. So reverence is directed at the consummate perfection of the level of clear light and great bliss that Pema Gargi Wanchuk has attained. What is our state in contrast to that? Our state, our condition is one of great suffering, one of the darkness of ignorance. This is quite a contrast to the great bliss and clear light that is the experience of Pema Gargi Wanchuk. When we see that difference, when we see that we are floundering in this ocean of suffering and the darkness of ignorance, in contrast to the state of Pema Gargi Wanchuk, we have a very powerful sense. We see the great distance between us and the Guru in our experience. What happens when we see that? When we have that felt sense, that experience of that distinction, we naturally give rise to the wish to be free of this ocean of suffering, this darkness of ignorance, to be liberated from it altogether, and to attain the state of the clear light of great bliss, just like Pema Gangi Wanchuk. So in order to attain that state, we have this sense of longing faith. The longing faith is the one that seeks to attain that same state and that turns to see, well, what does that depend on? Seeing that what it depends on is the blessings of Pema Gargi Wanchuk. We have confidence in that relationship, that his blessings is what allow us to gain that. This is the feature of the Guru of being kinder even than the Buddha. This is the gratitude portion of reverent gratitude, usually translated as devotion. And it is out of these two elements, reverence and gratitude, that we make the supplication. This is how we can see why it is said that devotion, reverent gratitude, is the root source of blessings. We are invoking the enlightened mind by calling on the omniscience, affectionate love, and power of enlightened mind, asking that Pema Gargi Wanchuk know of our situation, suffering, and the darkness of ignorance with his non-dual wisdom, and behold us, look upon us with affectionate love in that state. Out of that, we make supplication.
Allah. Tindi da jilab. Any jilab di karinangore Islam na dini nganzo o marik bi membadang tungal gi gyatso le tolne Pema Gargi Wanchuk ke ki kopang dewa chimbo osal gi ing di Tobala Chilam Narona, Slaura. The Ganes Tugre, Lana Dinima, Dunga Yeshe Naru Dolne, Pangto Nizin Shibra Jeje. Tinganju Gun Dele Dolne, Lami Yinjing Kobang di Tobala, Tening around to Nyomong with Dungayara, Nyomong but Dunga di Ngo Yeshera, or Din to Gosutini, Nanzo Nyomong Panga de la Dini, Nyomong de la da, Pon Lamje, Grua Lamje, Sheba Lamje Sene, Lamje Nabasum Shigra. Pen Nyomong Poya Ding, so lay Dambo Bagasu, Nyomong Ngo Yeshidi, Tong Tugumara. Tigasu Gare Lam the Jagger and the Pon Lam the Jagora, the Nyomong Bala Kyun the Ta Nyomong by the Pon Lam the Jagora. The patient of Dugjiana Dug Dilla any lay Dambo Bagi Garijigare, Pangara. Dug the Panga mother in that Tosha Yomare. Dug the Ugoreda, lay Dambo Bagi. In a member in a Garijigare, commend the Gure. Jorwa Jena, then a man Shanda Nimdu, then a Jorwa Jedigasu, men like Gure. Then Dug the Yugomara. In a Dukuran Sana and Nagira, Shigira. In Dug the men like Gurne, Sana, Shigmara. Tigari, Guru Lamjera. The member mother Shigmara. Dina she didn't Yomobody, Pang Magoji, Gurne, Lam the Jazira. That Dugdi, another Senduk and a young Duke Mixagera, Senduk Sadi, Maja Hagura,
Body, peacock.
Picoki Duk the Sana, Duk Picola vitamin Dodi, Dugdi Pico Kurang Divire, Sandala di Yomare. Or the Pico Kurang is on a Kurangla Duk Maredi, vitamin
Body.
D. The Kurangi, any Maji Todungi, any Sedukdi, Tadung Sevachagre. Did over the girls and Shivalam Jason. Numumba Pangomare, Numumba Gurgomare, Numumba Ngola Tana, Yeshe to Dolgre. This Sangagi Lamra Sangagi Lamgidan, Zorim Lamra. Chetan de la Dison, that Dunga Yishing or Dolne said, Dunga Pangmagoa, Gurmagoa. Any Dunga Gungo Yishi, but Shevajana, any Dunga Yishi Doldo. Or did with any Dunga Pangmagoa, Gurmagoa, Yishisu Moshivagoni, Yishingaru, Dolsona, then a Pangtop. Pangjadang Tobja ni Suzimbadigar, Nizin di Pangja Resore. Dingola Pangja the Tobja ni Yamare. Jedimilla Rebe Songra, Korwa Shen to Pangdume, Yangde Shen the Trudume, Songra. Cardinal Korwing over the Yeshera, Korwing over the Yangdera. Korwa Moshena di Yangdera. Mother Korwa Shendala Pang, Yangde Shendan Sutoya Yamare Sonre. Did over the Pangja the Tobja ni Yamara. Didn't Pangja Kunji, Tobja Yindin, Nis din and Dinizin, the Dik, the Garan Trubara. Her to be on the Jenna. But Chetan did a Panga the Toba Nis Zimbadi, Shiksona, Shikdora Digasu. Yumon Yishi to Dolna. Din Digasu, Dunga, Yishi, Naru, Moshibakone, any Yishi to Dol de, Pangtum Nis Nizindi, Shibola, and Jilam Narona Slaga. This is one of the Desin was Ingla, Tini Pema Gargo, Lama Pema Gargo, Nation Kopang, Montijetugura, or did over the Kopang Tobalilam Naronas, did Kopang Tutu the Shagidua.
Body. Then this verse is directed at precisely this. Please grant me the blessing of attaining the level of clear light of great bliss by freeing me from this ocean of suffering, completely darkened, clouded by ignorance. Then the verse continues, grant that having liberated the 5 poisons into the 5 wisdoms, we eradicate the dualism of relinquishment and attainment or realization. What does that mean? This is referring to the 5 poisons or root kleshas, which are in essence the 5 wisdoms. Generally speaking, there are 3 kinds of approaches to engaging the kleshas, the emotions that disturb mind's natural tranquility. There is the approach of abandoning them. There is the approach of transforming them. And there is the approach of recognizing them. So abandonment, transformation, and recognition are the 3 degrees with which we are able to work with the kleshas. And here they are likened to poisons. So we can use an example to see how that works. Generally speaking, it is by seeing the kleshas as failings that we are able to actually engage any of these 3 approaches. Seeing that they are failings, we strive to relieve our situation from them. This is very similar to an actual poison. If we are an ordinary person, a beginner in the conduct of working with poisons, if there is a poison substance, we're better off just avoiding it altogether, just abandoning it, just not having anything to do with it. It's better off to just trash it. Why is that? Because at that level, we really don't have any other way of interacting with it other than being harmed by it. So it's better to avoid the poisonous substance altogether. This is similar to the approach of abandoning the kleshas. When our expertise has developed, for example, if someone is a doctor, a physician, or a scientist, they are able to actually make use of the toxic substance to turn it into a medicinal substance. So the poison now has become a medicine. It's not something to be thrown away. It's not something to be trashed, because then we couldn't actually use the medicinal substance that is the result of transforming the poison. Now we're able to use that substance in a positive way. But this is only something that we gain when we have the specialized knowledge of a doctor or the like, who is able to transform the poisonous substance into a medicinal substance. This is like the approach that addresses the kleshas by transforming them. Then there's a third approach to the actual poisonous substance. This is one where we use the example of a peacock. A peacock is said to have the unusual ability to take a particular kind of poison and eat it directly. For the peacock, it's not poisonous at all. It doesn't need to be transformed. Just as it is like a vitamin. The more they eat of it, the more the beautiful colors of the peacock shine forth with resplendence. This is an analogy for the approach of recognition. There's no need for the peacock to avoid the poison. There's no need for the peacock to transform the poison. Just consuming it directly is what beautifies the peacock. Similarly, in these three approaches to the kleshas, the third approach, the approach of recognition, is one that comes about in the secret mantra. And in the path of secret mantra in particular, it relates to the path of the completion stage practices. There's no need to abandon the kleshas. There's no need to transform the kleshas. There is a direct recognition of all the kleshas, these 5 toxins of mind, as non-dual wisdom by nature, not needing to abandon, not needing to transform. There's a direct recognition of the kleshas as wisdom. In fact, at that level, we are able to see that there is a failing in distinguishing between what is to be relinquished and what is to be realized or attained, as indicated in the last line. Seeing the two as separate is itself a failing. There is no distinct relinquishment and distinct realization. This is, as the Lord Milarepa said, there's no need to abandon samsara. There's no need to attain a nirvana. It is not that we have to import nirvana from somewhere else and export samsara to somewhere else. The very essence of samsara is nirvana. What we need to do is to realize that there is no dualistic division between realization and relinquishment and realization, that the ultimate state is one of samsara and nirvana inseparable, without distinguishing between relinquishment and realization. To distinguish between the two is itself a misperception. This refers to the state of recognizing the 5 poisons or root kleshas as wisdom. And what we are supplicating for is the blessing that we eradicate dualistic perception that distinguishes between relinquishment and realization, recognizing the 5 poisons as the 5 wisdoms to attain the state of clear light of great bliss. Please grant me this blessing is the supplication we make here.
Allah. That the Jesu any Shibadi, the young the Changulu to Tayla Sundebre. Tango Sunday the Lona, Teni Yundung Lingua Keno, Sisi Nimni Uni Sishi, Mugi Nalma Gula Kene, Dogdul Dunyam Chambosreji Shibadre.
Next, we turn to the 4th verse of supplication to Jangan Kuntrul Loditai. And this verse also uses a different address for Jangan Kuntrul Loditai. The verse is the verse I'm going to put into the chat. And the verse reads, Teni Yundrung Limpa Noni, or know us, behold us from the sphere of the equality of samsara and nirvana. Grant that, having ignited authentic devotion in our mind streams, we attain the great simultaneity of realization and liberation.
Oh, love. The Della Teni Yundung Lingba said the young Jangun Missiki Sende, Jangulu Tag Sende. Then any young doing what the Garelana Jangulu to tie the register the Chodi Nara Therma. The Jangulu to tie the Tergita Bora, Terda. Then Tertin Chuguling Ter Kazation and the Ter Sama Chodi Nangan the Jangulu to Thyra. Then Terda the Jangulu Thyra. The embodied Guru Machigi Lungdere. The Tini Yundung Basa, the Chane, Mingtare. The Ming the Guru Machigatana. The Ming the Guru Machigatana, you're in and Kong Long was tired the Gadirilla, the Ning and Song Kongi dancer, Song district of Francene. Songshigi Gurumichi Neji, Della the Puba Chimbuji, Kanda Sangpu Sally. Dinala, Puba Dinala, the name Jamula Tag, Reginter the Chodinara. Reginter the Chodina go to the Gosu, the name Tertin Choguling Badang, Pongi Lama, the name Jaman Kinsi, sir. Mokonda, the Chankins of the Jenkins Ombo. Jamyan Kinsi Ombo, Kong number Nigi, the Kanto Songpugi Nangla, Dogish, tea. Dollar, doi tea, shooty in the shooty digala, the Chamuru Machesha, Chamulu Thai shoe, shoot, the name Terden Chuguling Badang, any Jamyan Kinsi Ombo, number Nigi, the name Mandal Pull. Any Kerang Tergita Nango Grace. Any Kerang done it on the Kerang Ming, the Teni Yundung Bares. Any Ming the Guru Machig now your S. Kerala. Or the name Shivere or Delatene, the Teni Yundung Bas, a Congress saying begins into the Hajang General Chamber.
In this verse, the name Tengi Yundra Limpa is also a name of Jangan Kuntrul Loditai. It refers to Jangan Kuntrul Loditai's role as the master of the termas known as the Rinchen Terje. Jangden Kundra Lodutai is the master or source of these termas, these treasure teachings. And there is a process by which he was given this name. This name is given by Guru Rinpoche, and it's indicating excellent qualities of Jangden Kundra Lodutai as a master of terma. How did that work in the life directly of Jangden Kundra Lodutai? In the place where Jangden Kundra Lodutai was staying, the zone where he was staying, there was a great cave, a Dakini cave. And in that cave is where he was able to serve as the source of these treasure teachings. It came about that the great Terma master Chogyur Rinpa and his own teacher, Jangyen Kinsey Wampo, had presented this figure in stone to Jangden Kundra Lodutai and asked him to stay in this Kundra cave to be able to reveal these treasures. Then the offering mandala, Chogyur Rinpa and Jangden Kinsey Wampo were able to make it possible for Jangden Kundra Lodutai to serve as the master of these Theravada teachings. This name, Tengi Yendra Limpa, is one given by Guru Rinpoche, and it is one that is very rich in great blessings as a result.
All of the Tani Yundul was the Jungle Tire. That in I see that Tini Yunduling, but the dig of that Tini Yunduling be in Gopang. There is Sissinemi in Sissinemi in La Sugar. The love the Gazotini, Sissinamba Nigi, Sisi, and Sipa de Shiva, Tagitini Karago, Jedimilla Reve Sung Nasi. Jedimilla Reve Karzuna, Dun Dambe on the Jena. Korwa Pangja Yomare, Nyangde Tobja Yomares. Still have to Sipa the Shivani, Dun Dambi Ingsu, Nyambanires. Nyambani love to go Sangi Yomare. Sangi medical Pangtop Yomare. Or didn't or did a bit in Nyambani ing. Tea Mundugilbara, Jungle Thai. Mundugilba, Nanyeba. Today, Sissinemi in Mundigur, Nanyene Nanyabadi, Kongi, Kabdi, Gopanga, Gopang Senate, Debi and Denda. Think Naransu Gopangare. I think Naransu Gopang Gare Landini or Sibalash Shivan Young days of Trulne de Dera Tungala Devarazin Tungala Devaratul any Dungal Mutambebala Shubadi Nanzu Young day Yava Haku. Any Sipa Degaran Tatuki Devai some the Tul there. Chicken and answer Yemni Todo. In a jungle, little Thai Sipa and Shivan Tore, Nansa chick the Tulra. Did the Gazo? Any answer if you do not crown like they were Tulne, they the Sibi Dungal, they were Tulna, Dungal Tamara. Kendira Mare. All right. The Gasu, Lame and then the Nazikini Tonto Gasu, then Garium, Nazikin did 균 ngante 균 la 균 de thong lame yenden la yenden de thong de ne ngante 균 dele lame yenden la yenden de thong ne de ne o dami deba kigira di jesu de ngante yang 균 dele dal ne ani lame yenden de thom na sabe debe deba kigira dami deba dikena di sonde kigira 다 ngante 균 dele dal ne sisi nyamni ki ingsu ne be gobang di thoba diang lame chilab la ra le ba yimba shena lame kadin thongro 티 구바기기로 무기니 상상 매버도 구바니가 상대 무기 상상 될 때는 선대 병으로 되는 간도양 동을라 데워 출배 거니 동을 못하 매버 뇽에 꾼딜에 돌네 시시 냠번니도 그르비 임 먼저 그르바당 될랑가니베 애니 진람 나로낭 되네 소하다고 하래 선대도 연구하래 어디 건도다 맞아 찍다 냠도잖아
Ale,
찍이 유샤가
lade,
그래 나 먹이 될 때네 아니 매바도 그반이라 때네 아니 때니 용중링바 시시 냠니기 잉라 네베 거네 네베 낭네 찍거라 되니 예시기 nganzi nedang tungal la dewar thulne tungal musamme ba nywa dela di khemba naronang eni nedang dela sewe yeshi sewe thuji gi sgronang yeshi gi kin thuji signe eni nibe ngarang su kyun dele dol sisi nyamni gi ing Lama Kerangi Mundu Girwa Nangshin, Manto Yang Mundu Girwa La, Jinlab Naro Nangs, Sanje Dere. Kimba Da Tewa Nibasum Gi Tuki Kulware, Sanje Degi.
and then the verse continues after using this special name, Vajrangan Country Lodutai, by saying, behold us from the sphere of the equality of samsara and nirvana. What does that mean? This is very much like the saying of the Lord Milarepas we just looked at. It is saying that from the perspective of genuine reality, there is no distinguishment between samsara and nirvana. In essence, they are the same. Therefore, there is, from the perspective of genuine reality, there is nothing to be relinquished, nothing to be realized. Just so that perspective of genuine reality is the equality of samsara and nirvana. From that perspective, there is no awakening, no enlightenment, and therefore no relinquishment to attain that enlightenment. It is this state of or sphere of equality that is manifest, completely actualized, that is associated with Jamgon Kundra Lodutai in this verse. He is referred to from the perspective of his having attained that level of mastering the actualization of the sphere of the equality of samsara and nirvana. To say that he's attained that level or state is to say that he's attained the qualities of the fruition described in this way. What is our state? Our state is one where we confuse samsara to be nirvana. We take suffering to be happiness. We confuse suffering for happiness, and as a result, we end up wallowing in various kinds of suffering as an ongoing state. we do not recognize, we do not understand nirvana. We are actually in the situation where we take our samsaric existence, this cyclic existence of samsara, as the ultimate state of nirvana, the transcendence of misery. By confusing cyclic existence as the transcendence of misery, we continue to remain in that state of wallowing and suffering. By contrast, Jamgon Kongtrul Lodro Tai has attained the realization that does not confuse the two. By realizing the deficiencies of cyclic existence and not confusing samsara for nirvana, he has mastered the state of equality of the two, whereas we confuse samsara to be nirvana. And by taking the suffering of cyclic existence to be happiness, we are wallowing in that suffering without limit. This is a flaw, wouldn't you say? This flaw of seeing samsara and nirvana as two and confusing samsara for nirvana is what we need to see as a flaw. Seeing this deficiency as a deficiency, seeing the excellent quality of the guru as excellent quality, and realizing, actualizing the equality of the two, we develop vivid faith in the guru's qualities. This leads us to long for the state where we are free of this failing of perceiving samsara as a nirvana, and the longing to attain the state that recognizes the non-dual equality of samsara and nirvana. This is one cause for our supplication. We are asking that we are able to attain the same state, the sphere, the equality of samsara and nirvana, and recognizing that this depends on the blessing of the guru. We couple the reverence for Jamgon Kongtrul Lodro Tai in having attained that state with an understanding of the great kindness that he offers in giving us access to the blessing. This is gratitude. With reverence and gratitude together, we have the causes for supplication. And the supplication is one where we ask, please look on us from the state of non-dual wisdom that knows that we are suffering without limit and will continue to do so as long as we confuse samsara to be nirvana. Please behold us, looking upon us with your affectionate, great compassion in this state. And please use your great power to free us from this deficient state and allow us to actualize, just like you, the sphere of the equality of samsara and nirvana. By invoking these three qualities of enlightened mind, the non-dual wisdom of knowledge, the love of great compassion, and the great power of enlightened mind, we are making supplication.
Allah. Ini dua kali yang tu semnala dua je lagi tu, dua kali lagi tu Islam na. Ini ngarang so dewal dungal la dewar tulba dele dol ne sisi nyamni ki ing ngondu kilbe kobang di kandise topa chego gure di dewal lagi tu. Aba jedandi mugi nalma gyula kene togdul dinyam chimbo mugi togdul dinyam de gyur ani togdul dinyam de gyurbe gone sisi nyamni gi ingdi ngondu chego gres ta togdul dinyam de gane siyong gore lamna mugi nalma gyula kene di gyudi mugi nalma gyula kene es odi indini lama lada nibyo gone chilap gore nang gore lamna mugi nalma gyula ke togdul dinyam de gyurwala chilap naro na asla.
Awesome. Hearing this, a question may arise to mind. what is that question? The question is, if we are stuck in this state of confusing suffering to be happiness, if we take suffering to be bliss, how in the world are we ever going to attain this state of this space where samsara and nirvana are in equality? How do we attain the realization of the equality of samsara and nirvana? The way that happens is set forth in the next two lines of the verse that say, having ignited authentic devotion in our mind streams, we attain the great simultaneity of realization and liberation. So what this is saying is that we are able to attain the simultaneity of realization and liberation, that state of them arising together, co-emergent, by having this natural devotion. This authentic devotion is what allows us to attain the state of realization and liberation together. And what we are asking for in this supplication is that Jangam Country Lodro grant the blessing that this happen, grant the blessing that having ignited authentic devotion in our mind streams, we attain the great simultaneity of realization and liberation.
Hola. The movie Nalma Gulakene, total the name Chimbosi said, the Karisung Reslana. Oh, the total the name said, the Ombunamogi Lam Drusulra. Pena Rimgi was a chichar walagdo. Rimgi badi Lam Rimbash in the Drogora, Pena, Solam Gazu, any Tebaje, any Sambaje, Gomga, any Gomgaval Dinedine, or Cholam Top, Cholam Layandine, Cholam Rimba, any Cholam Rimba, Cholam Shi or Cholam Shi Rimbash in the Tenisine, Tolam Gazumusun the Tongra. That Musum the Tong, any Chini Musum the Tong and Tonam Toto the Sine Dine, Dibi 7 Letulgira. Musum the Matombadu, Musum the Matombadu, Tony Toyore, Musum the Tongamara, Jolam Gasu, Tony Toyore, Solam Gasan Tony, Tesum Gone Toyore, Gombe Gone Toyamara, Jolam Gasu Gombe Gone Toyore, in Musum the Toyamara. Ding also didn't go Nyamyong Tokba Sumyora. Solam goes to Goa, Nyamyong Yomare, Cholam goes to Nyamyong Yore, Topa Yomare. Then Tonam to the Gosini Topa Gila Gigira. Di goes to Dibale Tulgira. Di goes to Topa than Dolvani Badala Rimba Mamudo. Topa than Dolvani Dinamido. The Chichero Adigar and Topa than Dolvani Dinamyong Resona. Lam Rimba Mamu Drogomare. Katu Musum the Todora. Musum the Tona Dibale Tulgira. Or the top of the dollar, the young said, Chichero Lam to Sul, Ombunabog Lam to Sede. Did over the Chichero to Lam to Sul, this top of the dollar, the new Jumadi. Tap Garel than a younger Lam, Tav actually the Mugu. Mugu Norma Gilakena, then it told the Yamgi and Lam to Sul. Chichero to Lam to Sul the young race. Or did over Chilam Noranas, Shira, sort of it.
This phrase, the simultaneity of realization and liberation is referring to particular stages on the path of practice. The realization and liberation that is effective instantly in a sudden or immediate way is a approach of beings of a very sharp capacity, a very optimal degree of spiritual maturity. Generally speaking, there are these degrees. There are individuals that are able to attain this instantly, suddenly, and there are those that attain to the realization gradually, progressively, by following the paths, stages. For that progressive approach, there is the listening, contemplating, and meditating, and so forth. That in turn leads to entering into and traversing the 4 stages of the path of accumulation and junction. And then at the end of that path of junction, there is the path of seeing, which is the direct realization. In other words, the direct realization of dharmata, the nature of things. This is what is able to liberate. This term liberation here is referring to the liberation of the obscurations from its very seeds, the very roots. But there is a process, a sequential process that's going on in the progressive approach, where there is the listening and the contemplating that allows one to comprehend the emptiness, but that understanding is not a direct experience. Then even in the meditation stage, there is more than understanding, there is meditative experience, but nevertheless, it is still indirect. It is not a direct realization. Then it is at the path of seeing that the direct realization exists. So there are these 3 phases. First, into understanding, then meditative experience, then realization. In the level of listening and contemplating, this is referring to understanding, a deepening of the understanding. In meditation on the path of junction, there is a meditative experience of the emptiness. And it is on the path of seeing that we have direct realization of the emptiness. So normally on the progressive approach, there are these various levels of the various paths that ultimately lead to the direct realization of the emptiness that is able to lead to the liberation from wrongdoing. That's the progressive approach. The sudden or instantaneous approach is one that is that is possible for beings of optimal spiritual maturity that have very sharp capacity. They are able to attain the direct realization and liberation from wrongdoing in this instantaneous way. And what's the method for doing that? How do we actually develop the realization and liberation in this instantaneous way? The method is the authentic devotion in our mind streams noted in the 3rd line of this verse. This is what allows us to traverse the path in a single bound, so to speak, instantaneously. This is what the blessing we are supplicating for. Please give me the blessing to be able to attain a realization and liberation in this way, in the sudden, instantaneous mode of beings of sharp capacity.
Hola. Tinda ni mugi nalma gila kena delatene togul dinya membres tesongro. O din diga so dini jangul ri thayagi sungching nala karsung yore islamna lama la sangi ngui gi dishi shane mugi radi. Lama la sangi sawe lama la sangi ngui gi dishi shane ning thagwa ne solwa yang yang debna mugi go ne 이제당 시길람 이제당 시길람도 말리버 랑기 셈기 치니 낭네 랑돌도 차로에스 차르그레스 시길라 떼고 말해서 이제라 떼고 말해서 어디는 식당 이제길람도 말라바라 랑기 셈기 치니 낭네 랑돌도 차르그레스 디 두규름부치 디 루긴데스 거기기 룩스디레스 무기를 되네 또번 낭네 차로데 시길람도 이제길람도 마데바라 또번 낭네 차로데 무기기 또블라 되네 남이 질랍주 델라되네 또번 낭네 차로 랑기 셈기 치니 낭네 랑돌도 차로데 두규름부치 디 루긴데스 루긴 손에 어디다 또를 되면 되다 무기 날마 길었게나 시길람당 기저길람라 마데바라 되니 셈기 치니 낭네 랑돌도 차게 돼서 손에다 디가서 또보다 돌아 되냐므로 그냥 간데래라나 너무 디그레션에
Listen. So it is stated right in this verse that having ignited authentic devotion in our mind stream, we're able to attain the great simultaneity of realization and liberation. So what is this saying exactly? What precisely does it mean when to say this simultaneity or co-emergence, the arising together of realization and liberation? This is also stated in another verse by Jangad Kunjulu Tai that says, devotion is the perception of the root guru as actually the Buddha. Supplicating with that visceral sense from the depths of our heart without relying on words or conviction, we are able to attain spontaneously the true nature of our mind. What this verse is saying is that when we rely on the devotion that sees the root guru as actually the Buddha, in a very vivid, alive sense from the very depths of our heart, without even relying on a semantic understanding or an intellectual understanding of certainty, we are able to attain the realization of the nature of our own mind directly. This is the tradition of the Kagyupas. The Kagyu lineage relies on devotion as the basis for attaining realization. This arising of a realization is one that occurs co-emergent with, arising together with, simultaneous with liberation. And it is by authentic devotion that that is possible without relying on words or conviction. In other words, semantic or intellectual understanding. We're able to attain realization and liberation simultaneously.
디르베드니 무기 날마라테네 동들 되념 연구에디 영다 세버시나 되네 무기 날마디 게나 상게라 라마라 상게 무스 통에드니 무기 날마 줄라 게나 애니 라마기 툭당 랑기 에르메드 되기라 투이 찍도 되기라 델테네 라미 애니 똑바디 랑귤라 photograph. Karena yang jangulur saya ki page sungyare. Teni mugi gitu ki lama dang ngarangi tu dang hi erme tu table teni lama tokba ngarangi gula photo ede kande rela na. Pena tsasa hago ra tsasa. Tsasa hago ra.
Hakosan.
Tsasa ki par dena clay di chuk na karisha gare. 사자기 빠르게 리모트 클레이드를 내기도 와.
Lare.
리더를 손으로다. 델레 치고 말아. 치고 말아. 리모트 치기 좋고 말아. 리더를 손으로 정글로 다 손으로 그냥 나랑 기셔자 말해.
So looking at these last two lines, we can possibly use an example to see it more clearly, what's intended here by saying that igniting authentic devotion in our mind stream is what allows us to attain the great simultaneity of realization and liberation. What this is saying is that by igniting this authentic devotion, this natural devotion in our mind stream, which sees the root guru as actually the Buddha, we are able to bring together, to make as one, the enlightened mind of the guru and our own mind. This is what is meant by the realization and liberation and simultaneity. The enlightened mind of the guru's realization is transferred to our own mind stream. How can you say that it is transferred or transmitted to our own mind stream? By the power of this natural, authentic devotion, the enlightened mind of the guru is transferred to our own mind in the way that tsatsa is those little figures that we see in various Tibetan practices. It's a small figure made by a mold that has the figure of a Buddha or Tara or whatever. And that mold is put onto some clay. And when the mold is taken off, the figure that's on the mold is now on the clay. In other words, the mold transfers the figure in the mold into the clay as an imprint. And when the mold is taken away, the imprint stays behind in the clay. It's a direct process. The image of the mold is transferred, transmitted to the clay directly. There are no words needed. The mold doesn't have to talk the clay into having the image. It transfers it directly.
Hola. 다 디젤에 되더니 사회 라마라 산데브레. 다 ngaranso any jamgulure thai kungusu chal sungusu thai gi kalwa ma chumbare. Deni jamgun kutingni ba khenji osar yang chai gi kawa ma chungare. Ngado Mr. Lodro. Mr. the Mrs. Late. Didn't answer late Chara. Nina Anthony answer cutting Sumba Jayaki Kawachungore. Mang Chara Jungore. Any cutting Sumba Majana, cutting Shiva Jayaki Kawa test Jungore. Or Dean Anthony, Manzo Toy Lama. That cutting Sumba Jalung and cutting Sumba. Shiva Jalung and cutting Shiva. The Mansa Lamare. Then tell us another. In a then good Taderemado took Guchibare. Then the Jamulu Thai shower and Kivare Mare.
The next verse is one directed to the root guru. And what is the relevance of directing the next verse to the root guru? We are not ones who have the karmic or good fortune of seeing the form of Jangam Kundra Lodro directly, the first Jangam Rinpoche. We don't have the good fortune of seeing the form of the second Jangam Rinpoche, Khyentse Ozer, directly. We are Mr., Miss, and Mix late when it comes to actually encountering all of them. Some of us may have encountered the third Jangam Rinpoche in person directly. Some of us may have had the good fortune as well to encounter the fourth Jamgon Rinpoche in person. But what this is saying is we now supplicate the Rugu, be it the fourth Rinpoche, the third Rinpoche, whoever we were able to meet in person, as our root guru, and we make supplication to them. Of these four different incarnations of Jamgon Khenpo Lodro Tai, they may have different forms. They incarnated in different physical forms, but the enlightenment is exactly the same. There is no difference as to any of them and Jamgon Khenpo Lodro Tai.
All of that didn't so the Tambu Sigi Lona, Sunday with Sigi, didn't so Lama Keno, Chitu Desin Nene Sixi, Rangri Chugu, Rangshel Jamne, Seji Sangi Dubur Seji Shibadre.
That verse to the Rugu reads, Rugu of great kindness, know me. Behold us from the chakra of great bliss at the crown of our heads. Grant that by coming face to face with reflexive awareness, Dharmakaya itself, we obtain Buddhahood in this very life.
All of you the Dingenso Lamadi, in the Gongdu Shibe, Jamgulu Tai, no in Dingaso, Gaselu Tai. Pema Kargi want to Tini Yundung Lingba Lasoba Tini Lama Disadang Lama Dedang Tini Mo Erme Tetum the Mase Tini to Gishing the Chimbugi Cube Lama Tetum the Mase any church would do some Sangetam Chedang Mojik Konjosum, Sawasum, Tamjigi, Dangi, Tamjik to the Beranso, Dinjeta Lama. Di Tamjedang, Yenden Yamla, Gadin, Deda Tamje Leg, Lava. Dinjeta Lama. Ngadu Tiru Dingenso Lamading to Gomsadi, Chituk Desin Nesu Shuyu, some Samura, Chituk Desin setting of the dog, Zakolo Shigi Nanani, Chituk Desingi Colo said. Dinaladini Shuyu, some Mabache. Chituk Desingi Nene, then Kimbe Shigi, Yeshigi. Nanzola Kenronang Sewe Tuki Sigronang Nivegone Jingi Lavronang Kembada Sewa Nivasumgi Tuki Glore Sandevi.
This verse begins by the phrase Rugu of great kindness, know me. And what is meant by Rugu here? This Rugu of great kindness refers to, just as we explained previously, Jamgon Khenpo Lodro Tai, whether he is called Nawan Yuntam Gyatso, or Bodhisattva Lodro Tai, or Pema Gargi Wanchuk, or Teni Yundrut Limpa in the previous four verses. They are all the same in essence. So all of these, etc., are referred to as our kind root guru. They are all the same in essence, and they are also the same in essence of all the lineage lamas of the practice lineage. They're the same in essence with all of the Buddhas. They are the same character. They're identical to the three roots and the three jewels. And this is all encompassed by this term, root guru of great kindness. It refers to the root guru as the embodiment of all of these in one form. This is the great kindness of the root guru. to embody them all in one form. In fact, this kindness is greater than all of these enlightened beings together. That is why the root guru here is called the root guru of great kindness. Then the verse continues and says, behold us from the chakra of great bliss at the crown of our heads. That refers to of the four chakras in the subtle channels of the subtle body. The chakra of great bliss is located at the crown of our head. And the root guru of great kindness is said to abide at this chakra of great bliss at the crown of our head. Directing our supplication to them there, we invoke their knowledge through their non-dual wisdom, their great compassion through their affectionate love, and the ability to grant blessings through their power.
Hola. Yeshe kin tsewe signe nibi jingi lapabi ini chilap gari nangu gure samna sechik sangye dhubar seji sonra sangye gopandi sechik lujik thaba tobe chilap naronas.
Invoking these three qualities of enlightenment, the knowledge of non-dual wisdom, the ability to see us with great compassion through affectionate love, and the power to grant blessing, we make the supplication. But what is the blessing we're asking for? This is the last line of the verse that says, may we grant the blessing that we obtain Buddhahood in this very life. So we are asking for attaining awakenment in one life.
Oh, that any sangi gopang di sechik lijik la tobe tap garigi togu gure la na rangrik chugui rangshal chalnes. Dine soso rangrik be yeshe chugui rangshal soso rangrik be yeshe di chalwaam togne any lamdi jena de lamdi jena dobe sangi gopang di sechik lijik la top gure o diraba de ni chilam naronas sunde chare.
So I left out one phrase in that blessing, which Drupon Khenpo added. We're asking for the blessing of attaining Buddhahood or complete awakening in one life, in one body. So in this very life, we are seeking to attain the level of Buddhahood, complete and perfect awakening. What is the method for doing so? The method for doing so is stated in the third line of the verse, by coming face to face with reflexive awareness, Dharmakaya itself. This is referring to realizing, coming face to face or meeting the intricately discerning wisdom that is Dharmakaya. But this is the path that allows us to attain complete and perfect awakening of Buddhahood in one life, in one body.
Oh, la digi da solde brimba dangbo devi yendin dundu nirne de toba di lame chinlab la ra le ba shebe goni ini de toba la chinlab na or so de be sonde brimba dangbo di shetare ini dring de shagre de dar tsum jebe geve sa di rangshin simjin thamje na tumond je de rangshin simjin thamje mugi nalma gyulake Lami Chilab Gulasim Togdul Dinyamgi Lamne Sangi Gobang Sejik Luizila Tobe Chedu Moadam Molamgi Samjar Naura Aishu.
Completes a brief explanation of the first part of this supplication by means of developing the urgent seeking of the qualities of fruition and recognizing that this depends on attaining the blessings of the Guru and thus supplicating accordingly. we'll leave it there for today. Now, please gather together all of the virtuous roots that have come from this listening and contemplating the teachings of genuine Dharma, and dedicate it to ourselves and all beings in a similar situation, that we may be able to suffuse our mind stream with authentic devotion, embrace the blessings of the root gurus in that mind stream, and bring to simultaneous realization and liberation that mind stream in the complete and perfect state of awakening of Buddhahood in one life, in one body. And please make the aspiration and dedication prayers that this may happen. Tuchinandru Makapala.
Thank you to Drupon Khenpo for these wonderful teachings, and to all of you for attending, as well as, of course, to all of our listeners, to all of our translators and reporters. We can stop recording now.